I'm Justice Evelyn Lundberg Stratton, and I'm a justice on the Supreme Court of Ohio. But sort of in a different role, I work a lot on issues of veterans that end up in the criminal justice system. Ohio has been on the forefront of veterans who end up in the criminal justice system and trying to deal with the issues that get them there. For about 14 years, I dealt with mental health courts and trying to deal with mental health issues that land people in the criminal justice system and ways to get them out of the system and back into the treatment modalities. But about 4 years ago, I was in Washington giving a speech, and I talked to a gentleman from the VA who said they were going to start veterans courts. And I said, well, what is a veterans court? And when he described it, I said, that's basically a mental health court with a vet in it. So I got involved with the VA, and I ended up on a committee in Washington that put together a program called Veterans Justice Outreach Specialists, VJOs for short. And what they did is assigned a VJO to every hospital in the country that was a VA hospital. Ohio had 5, so we got 5 VJOs. So I came back to Ohio all excited about this program. We were going to roll it out. It was going to be, the VJO was going to connect veterans coming into the criminal justice system with services. Well, lo and behold, I found out that almost nobody in our system asks if somebody's a veteran. So how can you get them into treatment if you don't know if they're a veteran? So I also found out that not only are there many, many VA resources, but there's also a lot of state resources, local resources, nonprofit associations, but nobody seems to know anything about each other. And so eventually I developed what I just kind of nicknamed myself, the Veterans Wraparound Project. Wraparound is a term used in the mental health field where you have someone who needs services and you wrap those services around the person who has the mental health issue. In the same way, we want to wrap our arms around veterans and help veterans in their time of need. So I started a conference, a statewide conference. This is now the 4th one because every year we develop more resources and we continue to realize that people don't know what resources there are. So that is the video you are about to watch. It's our 4th Veterans Wraparound Conference. We had a wonderful friend named Pete Miller who filmed the whole thing for us and is putting it together so that you can participate and watch any segment you want. And so I'm going to give you just a brief overview of the different speakers and what they're going to talk about. This summit is really a Cliff Notes version of what is available as resources. It's not to educate you about all these issues in great detail, but it's really to give you a little snippet about all the different agencies, VA, local, state, that are helping veterans, so then you can explore those resources in more detail. We are going to open our presentations with a presentation from Congressman Stivers, who is also a colonel, who is going to talk about what is happening on the national scene in relation to veterans. Then we are going to have Dr. Chrisanne Gordon present what is the challenge. What is the reason that veterans end up in the criminal justice system, particularly when they have lived a law-abiding life before, and then they come back from the war and they're damaged in some way. What we call the invisible wounds of war. Post-traumatic stress disorder, which we now are trying to call post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, a physical injury to the brain, and suicide, depression. And Dr. Gordon, who herself has suffered a TBI, is going to talk about the medical reasons and why they end up in our prison system, our jail system, our criminal justice system. Then we are going to have the response. What are we doing about this issue? We are going to have an overview of the VA system from Director Hetrick, who heads the VA health system in Ohio. We're going to be followed by presentations from a physician who's going to talk about the medical issues, from a person who deals with all the homelessness, and from a VJO, a Veterans Justice Outreach Specialist, who's going to explain the Veterans Outreach system and how that operates with the courts. We're then going to have the State of Ohio response. The Attorney General's office is going to present on what the Attorney General does with the Patriot Program and other projects that they do to help veterans. We're also going to have a presentation by the Ohio Department of Veterans Services and their wonderful programs in trying to reach out for veterans. They are just a key organization. We're going to have a presentation by the Ohio National Guard and what they're doing and how they're responding and how they're interfacing with all of the efforts that we're making with criminal justice and the veterans courts. The Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. Ohio is one of the few states in which rehabilitation is in the title. Most say Department of Corrections, but we believe that these veterans can be rehabilitated. And then finally, the Department of Mental Health, which is a key piece of the picture because so many of these issues involve mental health. Now, once that is concluded, we're going to talk about the court response. What is the court doing with mental health courts and the projects and the services that we offer our courts that deal with veterans who come into the criminal justice system? And then we're going to have the lawyer's response. What is our legal community doing? We have a wonderful pro bono project, lawyers who will give free aid to veterans who are in need, both on the criminal side, in their civil issues, and just pure civil issues. We're starting a statewide project, and we're going to share with you how we are doing that statewide project for veterans. And where do we go from here? We hope that you will have a chance to look at this video, perhaps jump to a part that may interest you, particularly if you're wanting to look at a piece on mental health, the VA response, what the veterans courts are. But we hope that you will find this useful just in whetting your appetite so that you will then go forward and look at in greater depth the area of interest to you. Our veterans have done so much for us, our military, and they're still doing so much for us, but they're suffering a lot of injuries, both physical and unknown, injuries to the brain that we don't even understand yet. And sometimes they come back changed and they don't understand why. We have a duty to reach out and help them become citizens again, help them readjust, keep them out of our criminal justice system by giving them the supports that they need. And I hope you will join us in that effort. And thank you for taking time to look at these presentations.